Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports,
we break down the NBA lottery reform,
preview the upcoming NHL season,
and wrap up the best bromances in sports.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now. Welcome to our very first October edition of One-on-One Sports. I'm Thomas Hale.
And I'm Ellie Whittington. Fall is right around the corner, bringing with the best sports season of the year.
But before we get into that, Ellie and I step up to the plate for the quick hitters. On Wednesday, former UConn head coach Jim Calhoun announced that he would be returning to basketball to be the consultant for the new men's basketball program at Division III University of St. Joseph in West Hartford, Connecticut. His main responsibility will be to recruit players for St. Joe's first competitive season in 2018-19. So, Ellie, what do you think of this move for Calhoun?
I think it's a great move. You know, coming out of retirement, he had a great coaching history, and why not continue on and build this program? And
I'm just looking at it like he's got an opportunity to really, like you said, build a program from scratch and bring it up for nothing. And I'm thinking, who wouldn't want to play for this guy? He's got 3 national titles and an NIT. He's got the name, Jim Calhoun. People know who he is. That's his name.
Right.
Everyone knows him in Connecticut, too.
I think it's a very good move. And when you're saying to build up a program, you need someone with experience. And I don't really know what the question is here. Why would we not be excited for this?
Exactly.
And for this Division III school, obviously it needs some help getting its feet off the ground. And he's familiar with Connecticut. He's familiar with the people there, the coaches in the high schools, kind of the recruiting process already. So I think it'll be a good thing.
Yeah, and what a nice story it would be to see these guys eventually win a championship or something like that under his arm. That'd be just such a cool story to see. So hopefully a lot of success comes to him in the future.
Yes.
Absolutely.
On Thursday, Bayern Munich fired their manager Carlo Ancelotti after an embarrassing 3-0 defeat to PSG in the Champions League. Ancelotti is widely considered one of the greatest managers of all time, with 3 Champions League titles to his name. Thomas, do you think it was the right move for Bayern Munich to fire such a legendary coach?
It's tough, but I think that with the expectations that Bayern Munich puts on their team, on their coaches, on their players, I think that it was the right move just because they expect to win the Bundesliga. They expect to be the champions, and they expect to make a run in the Champions League.
I think it's just a little too early. I get what you're saying, but you can't just a few losses and say we're done. I mean, people in Europe take soccer so seriously.
And that's the reason why they fired him.
And I think coming from an American side of things, it's hard to see because we don't fire coaches so quickly when it comes to American football and other sports. So you're looking at, we're debating something totally different in a different, kind of
And I mean, when
area.
you see a coach get fired after the first month, 2 months of his job, he only lost a couple games, and really, they're not doing that poorly. They're only in second place, but I think that Bayern was looking in their future. They had a tough 3-0 loss against PSG.
How do you take one of the coaches that, he's one of the only coaches that has won, 3 Champions League. Why are you just discounting him right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I was about to say, the loss to PSG was just huge to them. They lost 3-0. That's one of the biggest routings for a Bayern Munich team in a long time, and that's not something they're used to. So they want those expectations to make the finals.
Let's talk about something they are used to. He implemented this new formation on the field, and I think that team is used to that. So you bring in a new coach and you kind of screw everything up. So why do this?
Now's the time to screw everything up, though. Bayern's getting old. They've got about 8 to 9 players on their starting roster that are about over 28 years old. And
so you're wanting change?
Yeah, I'm wanting change. And Ancelotti, he wasn't doing a whole lot to bring in younger guys and start a new era of players. So I think it was about time for him to move out, and that's
well, I kind of disagree, but I guess in the future we'll see how the team handles this, and if a new coach does bring success, and who will that be?
Yeah, we'll find out. With another big-name player in Carmelo Anthony heading from the East to the West, it looks like yet another NBA season with a stacked Western Conference and an unimpressive Eastern Conference. So, Ellie, do you think it would be a good idea to scrap the conference system and for the playoffs just pick the top 16 teams?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
In the NBA, this conference system, as far as teams being stacked, is getting a little ridiculous. You're seeing the same teams over and over. We need something new and a little bit more competition.
And how can you make an argument nowadays that the East can match up to the West? It's just like the West is just far without a doubt so much better, and they're taking all of the East superstars. And I mean, in the last 5 years, only 2 to 3 teams have won over 50 games in the East. And every year for the West, it's easily 5 to 6 teams.
Yeah, so just I'm all about change in sport, and that's what I think makes sport so exciting.
Yeah.
Is it is ever changing, rules are changing, and let's change this. Let's start a new playoff system. And some people are, will be very upset about this.
But I think it's more
brings
fair.
more
The best
competition.
teams get in there, and the best team will win.
Yes, absolutely.
Simple
And
as
I'm
that.
tired. This might be controversial, but I'm tired of this Warriors-Cavs thing,
Yeah.
and just
I want to see Western players get to play Western players in the finals. It's only right.
yeah, that sounds cool to me.
All right.
On Thursday, the Texas Rangers broke ground on their new $1.1 billion ballpark in Arlington. Their current stadium, Globe Life Park in Arlington, is only 23 years old, opening in 1994. This comes after the Atlanta Braves built their new park to replace 20-year-old Turner Field. So how do you feel about this new trend in baseball stadiums?
Yeah. There's a new thing in sport management. It's called the arms race. Little sport management lesson for you.
Yes.
And that's when teams always want their stadium to be the biggest next best thing. They want to bring in more fans that way. And I mean, simply, that's just the way you got to go nowadays.
I don't agree.
Yeah?
Because I think the reason it is the arms race, and it's you build a new stadium, you sell tickets. Let's take the Braves, for example.
Okay.
They built their new stadium this year.
Right.
The team, frankly, sucked.
Yeah.
And people were still going to see the stadium. So even though you don't have a good team, and they've been rebuilding for 2 or 3 years now,
Absolutely.
whatever, and they built this new stadium. I guess I am being a little partial here. I grew up going to Turner Field, being from North Carolina.
Yeah.
The Braves are the closest
There's
team.
a lot of history behind it.
Yeah, and another thing for me, this is getting personal, but I'm trying to see all the baseball stadiums.
Right.
I'm right now at 15 out of 30.
Okay.
So
that
now
makes it tougher to get around
Yeah,
like that,
so now
especially for someone with the historical background of
Right.
baseball like you. You want to see those historical stadiums.
So I've already seen Turner Field. Now I have to go back to Sun Life. Now I've been to Texas Rangers. Now I'm going to have to go to a new stadium.
Yeah.
I can't even get all 30 before we have a new
Do you
stadium.
not get more excited about that, though? There's a
No.
brand new stadium.
Oh,
you
my
can
word.
see all the new glitz and
Well,
glamour.
I'm trying to get to Fenway before they tear it down.
Oh.
I've been to Wrigley, which is, there's just history. Baseball is America's pastime, and there's history in these old stadiums.
Well, hey, I think that baseball needs to modernize a little bit, as we've talked about before. And
No.
everything should be bigger in
Oh.
Texas as well. Nothing wrong with the big stadium in Texas. They deserve it.
The Astros do too.
Yeah, they do, actually. We've gone 4 for 4 from the plate, but when we come back, our NBA experts try their luck as they discuss NBA lottery reform. Stick around. This past Friday, teams voted 28-1 in favor of new lottery rules to be implemented for the 2019 draft. The reform will see the top 3 teams having equal odds of obtaining the first pick and increased odds for teams 5 through 10. I've got our experts, Dom Vernazza, Ennis Warlick here. We're going to break it down. Dom, do you think the lottery is good or bad for the league?
I don't really like it. I think it was a little too reactionary to really just one team, the 76ers, and what they were doing. I think 25% is a good number, what they had, because it still gives you a better chance if you're the worst team.
The
if you
top 3
need,
teams have 14% chance even.
that to me just seems way too low. I feel like bad teams, these worst teams, are going to get stuck in a cycle where they can't get these better players.
What I'm going to say is I think from a fan perspective, this was a good thing. And I think we're not completely done with it, but I think we're starting to gravitate to an era where we're not going to see teams putting out awful lineups every time.
We'll see.
So going off of that, Ennis, do you think that this is going to reduce tanking?
I think we can both agree that tanking isn't completely solved.
I don't think it ever will be.
I don't think tanking will ever could be completely solved. But again, getting back to my other point, I think we're starting to gravitate more towards an era where we're not going to see as much
I don't think
tanking.
in-season tanking's ever going to be stopped. I think once you get midway season, you realize you're not making the playoffs, even with less odds.
Cut it.
You still might as well lose many games.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to stop the 76ers style. Our plan for the next 4 years is to tank. I think that's what
Just to
they're trying
load
to do.
up on guys over the
I think
years.
that is going to stop.
Okay. So, Dom, do you think that this lottery reform is necessary even then?
No, like I said, they're just reacting to one team. Back before 1993, they had the same odds they do now. Then the Magic won it twice in a row from the last position, and everyone freaked out. The lottery's broken. Let's change it. I wonder how many years till an 8 team gets it twice, and it's broken. Let's give the worst teams better odds.
Here's what I'm going to say to that. I'm going to say that I'm just tired of seeing the same exact teams in the lottery.
Well, it's just
And I
been the
think
past few years. I mean, in general, there's a good turnaround.
but it hasn't been the same.
So how would you feel, though, if completely like the bottom one, the bottom team, the bottom second to bottom team, they don't get a good pick for the next 2-3 years? How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know. I think
The
that,
poor Nets, they just get their picks back,
can't
and now
do
they're not going to
anything
get
about it.
anyone with them.
I don't know. I still think that this is just. I think this was a necessary thing, and I think
So
it's just a
maybe-
necessary evil.
Now that there isn't just an all-out bad team, maybe it won't have as much of an effect in the future.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it was a good move. 25. I mean, even if you're the worst team, rarely do you actually win the lottery. I don't think it was necessary.
All right, not necessary. The change in the NBA comes at the change of the month. It's October, and that means MLB playoffs are here. Evan Piercy and Matt Holtzaff will join us to go over the top stories. Stay tuned.
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new chat. What did I do? Okay. Wow. That is so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi! God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good.
Separate raw meats from other foods by using different cutting boards. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
It is officially the best time of the year, and with the turn of the calendar comes the greatest thing next to pumpkin pie, and that is postseason baseball. I'm joined at the desk by our two MLB experts, Evan Piercy and Matt Holzaff, as they break down what's going on this October. Timing is everything in the playoffs, so let's see who is the hottest team right now.
I'm going with the hottest team in baseball. It's been all year, the Houston Astros. They've hit the ball tremendously. They have a .282 team batting average. Goes up to .290 with runners in scoring position. You can't argue with that. Lowest strikeout rate in MLB at 17.3% and 2.3 wins above replacement.
We're talking hottest though. We're talking last 10 games down the stretch into October. That's why I picked the Cubs. They were 7-3 in their last 10. They outscored their opponents
in the last week. Houston has been the hottest team, hitting over .280.
They outscored their opponents 44-19 in the last 8 games. If that's not hot, I don't know what it is. Couple that with the fact that they're in the top 10 in home runs, RBIs, on base percentage all year. If they can keep it up in October and keep this hot streak going, I don't see why they can't get back to the World Series.
The Cubs have surged lately, but they haven't been consistent enough. You look at their pitching staff, their team ERA for starters. Last year was 2.86. This year is 4.15. They just aren't good enough. They might have had it last week, but I have to go with the consistency of being hot, which has been the Houston Astros. They've done it all year. Their lineup featuring Springer, Altuve, Correa, that's a lineup that no one wants to face.
It's also, important to note, back to the Cubs, in the last game they lost to the Reds 3-1, but they rested their starters. The starters played 4 or 5 innings, so they're well rested as well as being hot on fire, so they're ready for that first game.
Well, guys, these are some very impressive stats from both teams, but I want to know about the two teams that are going back from last year, the Cubs and the Indians. Who is the hottest out of those two?
I said Cleveland. I think that obviously we saw their 22-game win streak. We saw, they've had offense, on offense and in defense and pitching, they've been impressive. I think they're really ready. I see them getting back to the World Series, actually.
Wow.
And, maybe they won't win.
They won't get back to the World Series. If the Yankees beat the Twins tonight, I feel like the Indians are really going to struggle with the Yankees. The Yankees have a rotation that can compete. Severino is equally as good as Kluber. You've seen him throughout the year shut down the Red Sox. going against Chris Sale.
I want to go back. You said Severino's good as Kluber. Then why is Kluber in the Cy Young discussion and Severino's not so much? Kluber should win the AL Cy Young. I think he should run away with it, honestly. But couple that with the fact that
it's more of looking at it with more perspective. I mean, in big games, Severino has pitched to his opponent. Going back to the game against the Red Sox, against Sale, Severino shut out the Red Sox against Chris Sale, who's arguably the most dominant pitcher in the American League right now.
And not taking away from Severino.
He can do that against Kluber.
He's been impressive, but when you factor in that Kluber, Carrasco,
but
Trevor Bauer, they all have 15 wins.
Go back to Game 7.
Are pitchers making the World Series? Like, is this what it's going to be? Pitchers?
Yes, but go back to Game 7 last year. Kluber started Game 7, threw a hanging splitter to Fowler over the wall.
But lost the game.
Over the wall for a home run. You make that pitch to any of the hitters in the Yankees lineup, that ball's going to go
well,
away.
You think he's going to make the same mistake twice?
He's going to make the same mistake twice.
We're going to the World Series. Guys, okay. You guys are so passionate about baseball, and this is why this is the most exciting time of the year. Who is winning the World Series, Matt?
Dodgers. It's easy. Kershaw should win the
Kershaw can't pitch in the postseason.
He's still going to win the Cy Young. And the fact that he has taught all the younger pitchers around him, like Alex Wood, like Rich Hill, to step up and take his spot. On top of the hitting, Granderson,
Kershaw can win all of the Cy Youngs in the world. I do not care. He is 4-7 with an ERA of 4.55 in the postseason, and I'm sorry, that is the number that stands out to me. That 4-7,
who's got a better
win.
Okay, offensive side then. Who's got a better lineup? You look at Seager, Turner. They got Granderson.
Houston has a better lineup. They're statistically the better team.
Who threw 209 strikeouts this year? They got halfway through the year. They made so many good deals on top of what they already had.
The Dodgers BABIP is 188. You know what Houston is? You know what? 282.
And
that's better. That's their batting average on balls in play. That's the amount that they hit.
Right now we're in the wild card. As we continue on, we are going to see where this World Series goes. I don't think the pitchers make the game. I think it's all in the hitting. So
it's gonna be a great
we
postseason.
Will see. Thank you guys so much. Grab your sweaters, everyone. It's time to go back on the ice. We've called in our NHL experts from Hibernation to discuss the upcoming NHL season.
The long-awaited start of the NHL season is upon us, and our hockey experts, Andrew Vandellis and Brad Clear, are here to tell us how the season's going to go down. So guys, let's get into a little bit. We got some controversy over the 2018 Olympics. How do you guys think this situation is going to go down if players want to go to Pyeongchang anyways?
Well, I think at this point, it's almost like a moot point. Ovechkin was the biggest sort of opposer of not being able to go to the Olympics. He sort of relented on that. At this point, if you really want to make a stink about it, you're just abandoning your team at a pivotal time in the season. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. Let's have some nice U18 hockey in the Olympics.
Exactly. It's just some bad timing when it all lines up. And as you mentioned, Brad, they have league obligations, and it's not really an argument anymore.
Okay,
Yeah.
So let them go? Let them not? Yeah?
Well, right now they say they're not going. That's not changing, so they're not going.
Feel the same way?
Yep.
All right, let's move on then. So let's open it up. Who's going to the Stanley Cup? Andrew?
Well, I think it's going to be the Penguins and Edmonton Oilers.
Again.
And I think Pittsburgh is going to win it. They are going to complete the three-peat for the first time in 35 years.
It's bold.
And I think they just have the talent to do it. I mean, you get Letang back from injury. You obviously have Sidney Crosby as the leader. You have a great 23-year-old goalie in Matt Murray. And you did lose some vets over the offseason.
So
you have some young talent.
And on top of that, so you lose Nick Menino, you lose Chris Kunitz. Your team is getting older. It's not a deep team as is. I'm going to say the same matchup, Edmonton and Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Edmonton.
Wow.
Edmonton, to me, they got the best. Well, you look at the throne of best player in the league. It's Crosby. McDavid's going to take that throne. I think it happens this year. You look at their centers. You have McDavid, you have Draisaitl, and you have the Nuge. That is a too-sweet combination of centers.
Can lead this team.
Oh, yes. Defense is great. Cam Talbot's a good goalie. I think this team is on the rise. I think it's going to come this year, and I think they're taking the
Well, if you think Edmonton's a little too sweet, I just think they're a little too obsolete for the Penguins to they're just going to win it.
Do you think that they have the experience that
They have
Edmonton
too much
doesn't
experience, and it's like they're like a fine wine.
They have
with age, and I think it's
do they get better with age?
I think the chemistry's there to
Their
make
bodies,
it happen.
their
They have
injury.
the momentum. They have the momentum. They have the skill.
It's been a whole offseason.
And I think, well, yeah, but they also have 7-1 odds.
Crosby's getting older.
They have skill.
Kessel might get hurt. They lost veterans. Letang's fragile. Edmonton's on the rise. They got young, fresh legs. They got the enforcer and Lucic have some veteran experience.
Could you see Edmonton being the new Pittsburgh Penguins, maybe?
I think the key to that would be sort of how they maneuver the sort of salary cap with paying Draisaitl and McDavid, both huge salaries each year. So that's going to be tough, but I think it's very possible.
All right, guys. Well, we've got a new team out in Las Vegas. How do we think the Golden Knights are going to do, Brad?
I think this year we're looking at a bottom 10 team.
Yeah.
The way they sort of set it up in the expansion draft is they wanted to have a lot of draft picks, young players. They took on a lot of bad contracts to get that done. Their defensive core is pretty weak. Their forwards, a lot of third line, borderline, second line players. Their goalie situation is great, but they're really set up contract-wise to be able to have guys they can flip for more picks at the trade deadline. Their first-line center, Vadim Shipachayov, he hasn't even played the NHL yet. He's probably not a first-line center. Bottom 10
So
for
they
me.
need some time to develop.
Well, in the net,
Yes.
obviously
Okay.
you have Fleury, and you have defenders like Nate Schmidt, but they're not enough, as you mentioned. They just don't have enough star power, and they need to do what any real expansion team does and build through the draft.
That's
I think
the
they
only
did a great-
sustainable way
I think
to
they did a
win.
great
Yeah.
job with that this year, acquiring 3 first-round
Three
draft
first-round
picks.
picks. Suzuki was a great pick. Cody Glass, Eric Brandstrom. They have a ton of picks in 2019.
I just think it's the only real way for them to expand and really become contenders
Definitely.
at all. I don't think they'll be bottom 10, but they definitely won't be anything stellar.
But that defensive core,
probably floating
your
around.
top core, your top pair defensemen are both really ideally bottom pair defensemen. James Neal's going to be traded by the middle of the season.
Well, but
Jonathan
what more
Marchessault
can you
is-
expect from an expansion team?
Oh, no, I'm
Literally
not saying
built
that
their
you
team
can't-
out of
I can't say you
nothing,
can
pretty much.
expand-
Gerard Gallant did the best he could.
It was George McPhee. But I don't think you can sort of expect more, but I think just with the talent that they have, bottom 5 if they trade off a lot of guys, but there's just very little talent there. It's going to take probably 2 or 3 years before we see a
Well,
playoff
hey
team
guys,
in
we'll give them a
Vegas.
little bit of time to develop. Come back and talk about it again later. How about that? But there's the buzzer, and that's the end of the period. We'll clear the ice so the Zambonis can do their thing. But when we come back, Ellie sits down with our experts to discuss whether or not we should re-examine college athletes getting paid after the recent scandal. Stay tuned.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Okay. She's gonna love me all over again.
Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
With an FBI investigation bringing a massive NCAA recruiting scandal to light, many have questioned what can be done in college basketball and in college athletics in general to do a better job in illegal actions from the colleges. I'm joined here at the lounge by Mason Stoff, Jenny Longo, and Megan Podorsky to discuss one of the options commonly brought up in a discussion that has been over-talked about, I feel like. Should athletes be paid?
You go first, Jimmy.
As being a former athlete, it is a lot of work, and it is a job. And playing a sport, there are other things that you cannot do on campus, which sticks. But realistically, can athletes be paid? Absolutely not.
It's just not sustainable. You have to think about in 2014, there were only 20 universities in the country that were profitable at the Division I level. And they were marginally, or some more than others, but not enough to pay all of the football team, all of the baseball team, all of the basketball team, and then continue that through all of the non-revenue sports, the tennis, the swimming, diving, all that stuff. And you can't just pay some groups of athletes because all of the athletes put in the same amount of time and give up the same things as those revenue generating sports. It's about being fair. This isn't just about that team makes more money than that team. You can't do that.
And going off of your point, Megan, I also think, yes, only 20 Division I schools made revenue. That doesn't account for all the other FBS, all the FCS, and then we get into Division II and Division III, which can't even give out scholarships at the D3 level.
Because they don't have the funding
Yet they
for it.
still practice at a level that a lot of people are arguing would warrant payment. So it's absolutely unfeasible to pay athletes. But I think that brings up the question, in a perfect world, should they be? And I honestly still believe it's no.
And as much as you say, yes, athletes should be paid, but how are you going to pay everyone the same amount? Are you going to pay the star quarterback more, or are you going to pay the walk-on the same amount?
I think the best way to go about this is remembering that these students, most of these students are on scholarship or on some sort of financial stipend with the school to pay for books and fees and all that stuff. So in a perfect world, I think the best way to be would be pay for your tuition, your books, your expenses that come along with being a student at that school, right? But then in addition have a stipend of, let's say, the work study equivalent.
Well, they kind of have that. It's the cost of attendance stipend. Also, Leah Lambert, thank you for not doing cost of attendance stipends at Elon. But I really think that these cost of attendance stipends, which is the difference between what a school decides is the total cost of attendance at the university and what they get through tuition, room and board, et cetera. When the schools are rising this, like Alabama, I think they get anywhere between $10,000 and $13,000 on top of their already significant scholarship, full ride to the university, room and board, tuition, that they can then put into a fund for their families or use for other college-related experiences.
Something you all have said, no, student athletes shouldn't be paid, and I think that this is such a big discussion. You were talking about textbooks; they should pay for these things. Okay, but the school's getting royalties off of some of these players' jersey sales. Should they get paid for the royalties?
No.
I don't think so.
I still don't think so. And as a college athlete, many get the opportunity to have a scholarship, and that's fantastic. And with that scholarship, you have to say to yourself, I am furthering my education. I am getting a good education, because every college in the United States is a fantastic education. And you have to go about that and saying, my football or my basketball or any sport is paying for that. And
you're getting that. If you take Elon, for example, you're getting that, let's say, $50,000 a year. Instead of taking loans to attend this institution, you are paying forward to the university, and they are paying you in
My
tuition.
one comment that I do believe needs to be changed is I have no problem if a college student can have a YouTube account or have essentially a part-time job on the side and still succeed in the classroom and on the field.
Agreed.
I don't understand why that's a problem.
Thanks, guys, for sitting down and talking about this. While the entire sports world continues this ongoing discussion, Thomas and I will return to talk about our favorite bromances in sports. We'll be right back. Last week, Dwayne Wade agreed to a deal with the Cleveland Cavaliers and his longtime friend and old teammate LeBron James. Dwayne Wade and LeBron seem to have strong bromance, but are they the best bromance in professional sports?
Oh, man. I'm going to open this up a little bit because there's a little guy up in Toronto named Drake, the Sixth God, and he is just the biggest Raptors fan I've ever seen. I've never seen a man so attached to his team, and I'm considering
you have a bromance with a whole group?
I'm giving them, they're all brothers out there up in Toronto. And so Drake is always on the sidelines. He literally got Tony Snell because he was trying to throw in the ball distracted. He got him a 5-second violation because he was in his ear the whole time.
That's a little bit too much, don't you think?
That's such a good bromance, though.
Yeah, it is. Sure. I'm going a little off too, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe not
go
that
for
crazy.
it.
I'm kind of going with the sibling bromance with Eli and Peyton Manning. I love the Manning brothers.
They're so funny together.
And whether you watch, a football game or them on a crazy DirecTV commercials together.
Sports Centers together.
I love Sports Centers, yes. And I just love this sibling. When I feel like, what a family when you have 2 or 3 children that are just amazing athletes.
Yeah,
and that's a legit romance. I mean, they are brothers.
And they're also just great personalities for football as well. And those guys together you see the Mannings, and you don't just think of Peyton, you don't just think of Eli, you usually think of them together. And that's the best part of it, I think.
I agree. So that's who I'm going with.
Good bromances. That's all the time we have for this episode of 101 Sports.
Huge thanks to all the producers, crew, and talent here at the show. And you, Thank you for tuning in.
If you missed anything, please make sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at 101 Sports. For all of us here at 101 Sports, thanks for watching, and as always,
whose side are you on?